Welcome to the Collector's Catacomb, episode 15. Tonight we got an awesome guest with us, Erik. He's going to be talking about sweet 101st Airborne Division grouping, Screaming Eagles from World War II, involved in some really cool stuff during the war. He's got some awesome photographs to show us, uniforms. I mean, it is just a great grouping tonight. And I didn't mute YouTube. There we go. All right, so so we got him as our guest tonight. Another awesome thing is he starting next week he'll be a new panel member, so we'll add another militaria panel member to the cast of characters here. And tonight we've got Dan with us, we've got Erik with us, and we've got Sean Cooltoads so far. We're expecting to have Drew pop in. He's probably out back filming another shirtless video or something. But so hopefully he'll pop in with us. And then Chad had other business to take care of tonight, so hopefully we'll see Chad back next week. Hint, hint, Chad, get your ass back here. But yeah, other than that, we've got a great show tonight. My name is Erik Castle. I go by Tinkersville Relics, Tinkersville Retail. I manage the Allied Militaria Forum. I run the sourcingforum.com. I'm a big military collector. I specialize in the 38th Infantry Regiment, is where my main focus is. And other than that, I collect some other stuff. So that's what we're going to be here tonight and every week talking about is stuff we collect and the history behind it. So without further ado, we'll slide over to Dan here. Let him introduce himself. Go ahead and tell everybody who you are, Dan.
Howdy, I'm Dan at More Old Stuff. That's my YouTube channel also, and I've got a new Facebook page. So just look for More Old Stuff on Facebook under the pages. So I'm trying to be able to communicate with people a little better and not using my personal one, but kind of making it a group effort. And so I'll be putting all my individual pictures of my finds and all this kind of stuff there, as well as what I do on my YouTube channel. So I'll type it in the chat for you guys here a little bit later. And I'm doing a video right now. It's behind the scenes of Collector's CATACOMB. The wrong button. And I got the camera going here and everything. So you guys are going to be part of the whole behind the scenes thing going on here. It's the first time I tried. It'll be on my channel coming up soon. So anyhow, I collect things. I do all kinds of military stuff. I do guy stuff. Radios is one of my specialties. Cameras is another thing. A lot of ephemera, paper stuff, and I'll be showing you some more goodies tonight. So welcome, everybody.
Awesome, Dan. All right, and then we've got Sean Cooltoads, who's here watching for your comments and questions tonight. So make sure you throw them out there, and he'll get them to us. Sean, go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and about your channel and stuff.
I am Cooltoads, as he said. I have a channel here on YouTube, and it's called Cooltoads as well. Sorry, my dog is bugging me. I also have a show on Friday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's called the Toadcast. It's a very laid-back, let your hair down, bar scene type of a show. We do have some content in there, but we also have a lot of fun in there too. We actually have a topic for a change tomorrow. It's going to be, are you following the herd, as in H-E-R-D. So, yep. And also check me out at the National Resellers Advice, eBay and Amazon, or Amazon and eBay. Yep, on Facebook. And Catherine.com.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you being here with us tonight, Sean. And then our guest of the evening, Erik, MasonK. He is one of my moderators over on the Allied Militaria Forum. So that's his handle over there, MasonK. And he's also got a Facebook group, Military Collectors of Delaware Valley. So we can all assume that he's probably from Delaware Valley. Is that about right, Erik?
That's about right. I'm from southeastern Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. So the Facebook page is for anybody in that area, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware. We even let some New Yorkers in from time to time.
That's nice.
But, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
So just a little, background on myself. I've always been a collector. I actually, up until about maybe 6 years ago, was heavy into collecting comic books. Did that for quite a long time, and then made the jump over to militaria. Now I'm pretty heavy into collecting militaria from pretty much Spanish-American War up to Vietnam. I focus primarily on items that are named to individuals. My favorite part about collecting this stuff is researching individuals and learning their history, and that's pretty much it. So, hence why the grouping that I'm presenting tonight, which is probably one of my best groupings I've ever acquired. So I look forward to sharing it with everybody.
Great, Eric. Well, you've already tackled some entry questions that we normally have, so
sorry.
We'll just hey, no worries. It's all about just letting people get to know who you are and why you collect. So you touched on all that, which is great. So we'll just lean right into your grouping. Do you want to maybe start with the soldier's name and a little bit about his history, and then show us some items and whatnot? However you want to steer the ship, it's all yours.
All right. So the grouping, which you can see some of the items behind me right now, all belong to a single soldier by the name of Charles Wahler. Interesting tidbit about Charles, he was actually born in Austria. He was Jewish, which, as I'm sure everybody knows, being Jewish and living in Europe at the time wasn't, really a good thing to be. So in 1938, he and his family actually immigrated to the U.S., obviously because of the unrest that was happening in Germany and the surrounding countries that were being affected by this. He came over in 1938. He actually enlisted in the Army prior to Pearl Harbor, specifically on November 26, 1941. He went through basic at Camp Croft in South Carolina and eventually was assigned to the 4th Infantry Division, Company G of the 8th Infantry Regiment. From there, he went on to complete military intelligence training, and being Austrian and having I guess being able to speak German and actually having the ability to speak French as well, made him kind of an asset in that sense, because he eventually was assigned to a prisoner of war interrogation unit, where after battles, any captured prisoners were interrogated, and because he could speak German, made it easy for him to do that. From there, he eventually went on to become jump qualified, and was attached to the 101st Airborne. From what I can see in his records, which I have some extensive paperwork on him, he did make one combat jump, and that was for Operation Market Garden, which would have been from 17th to 25th of September 1944. He also participated in the Normandy campaign, which would have predated that. However, unfortunately, I'm not able to determine in what capacity he did. From there, he went on to the Battle of the Bulge, serving, in Bastogne. There's actual photographs of him, with annotations on the reverse of the photograph, saying this was taken in Bastogne. And pretty much he, served out the remainder of his of service with the 101st, serving alongside primarily the 501st PIR, Parachute Infantry Regiment. A lot of photos of other 501st PIR guys, letters that he wrote home to his family where he discusses them. Eventually, by May or June of 1945, he makes it to Berchtesgaden in the German Bavarian Alps, which was actually the location of Hitler's Berghof, which was also known as the Eagle's Nest, and also their location of Oberzellberg. Sorry, I probably murdered that name, which was a town purchased by the Nazis in the 1920s for senior party leaders, and some of the inhabitants included Himmler and Göring. More so as their summer homes, not as their main residences. Obviously, they had residences, wherever they wanted to set up shop. And he continued to serve until around October of 1945, which is when he was discharged and, arrived home. So, that's pretty much a basic, short and sweet of his background. But, there's a lot of interesting things there, especially him being Jewish and being from Austria and then eventually returning to his homeland and seeing, the conditions of it, as a result of war, Very interesting because in some of the letters that he wrote home, he talks about people that he knew in Austria that eventually, became officers in, the Wehrmacht, the German military. So, a lot of interesting history there just for, the fact of him being there prior to the war and then returning and seeing how things, kind of turned out.
Right, that is kind of unique, because most American soldiers would have, came back to the U.S. where, things weren't quite as affected,
Yeah, exactly.
As it was over there.
Yeah. So he got to, be in a lot of interesting places where a lot of interesting things were happening. Anybody who's seen, I don't like to use it as a reference, but if you've seen the show Band of Brothers, I mean, a lot of the places where he was is where the show kind of, takes the 506 PIR, along and, their history. So Bastogne, Berchtesgaden, places like that. So he may have been, if you want to equate it to something that, might be more familiar with, Band of Brothers would be kind of along that lines.
Monument. Was he part of that whole? Would he have been like the same time frame or later after the war, or do you think he was there kind of the same time frame that those guys in the movie were there?
I absolutely think he was, and here's one thing, and I'm going to show it later on. There is what I believe to be an original photo of Hitler that's with the grouping where Hitler's standing in front of his yacht, and it's the christening day of his yacht. If anybody remembers the show Band of Brothers, at the end, I think it was the last episode, there's, they're in the Eagle's Nest, and they find, or one of the soldiers finds a photo album. And it contains a lot of photos, and that album went missing. I think it might have been one of the photos that either was with that album or a similar album, because the photo itself doesn't. A lot of times during World War II, in Germany, they issued postcards of high-ranking officials. Unfortunately, this photo, and I'll show it later on, does not appear to be a postcard type photo. It looks like an original photo that wasn't distributed for the masses to see. So I think he was in the same places at the same time as those guys. Some of the photos you're going to see, they're never been seen before, and it shows some really interesting stuff. So especially I won't get into detail now. You got to see them for yourself to understand how amazing these photos are, and the fact that he was an amateur photographer, which I didn't mention. The photographs themselves are just very well taken, so it really represents what he was trying to capture in the photograph.
Great, man, great. Well, what do you want to start with? You want to, I guess let's start with your nice big ticket jump jacket there.
Absolutely. So right behind me, I'll kind of pull it in a little bit so that it's in full frame. So this is his original jump jacket. It's what's known as a Model 1942 or an M42 parachuter's jump jacket. A lot of them you'll see reinforced sometimes on the the elbows or in other areas around the pockets, just so that they won't get torn during a jump. This one wasn't, he wasn't in a combat role per se. So I think this was a jacket that was issued. He did his jump, and then he continued to wear it. So on the jacket, you can, it's kind of limited in what, as far as its accoutrements. You have a pair of jump wings here, and the interesting thing about these jump wings is these are actually British-made jump wings. So a lot of times while they were, overseas, they didn't, at their local PX, they may not have been able to get there to get, the bells and whistles they needed to put on their uniform. So, overseas they were making insignia for us, to be worn on uniforms and, et cetera. So these are actually made by a company called J.R. Gaunt. And, I guess the proper name for these would be Basic Parachutist Badge, but they're more commonly known as jump wings. On his left shoulder here is the 101st Airborne shoulder sleeve insignia. And again, the interesting part about this is it's not a standard U.S.-made insignia. It's actually a British-made insignia. Again, getting back to, insignia being made by our European friends. So this patch itself is actually felt, or embroidered on felt. So it's not a very common patch that you're going to find. You know, just if you go to a shop or, you know, on eBay or something like that, you're not going to see this patch really, you know, too often come up for sale. And then the other interesting part here is a lot of photographs show Charles smoking a pipe, and the people who found this grouping, they had about 10 of his pipes. So through the photographs that I have, I was actually able to match up this pipe to the one that he's actually using in the photographs during war and, you know, period photos. So it's, you know, I kind of stuck it in there because he's wearing a jump jacket while he's smoking his pipe, so I felt it was fitting to, you know, kind of add it to this.
That's cool.
Awesome. And it's those little pieces that you get with these groupings that just make them so great, you know?
It is. I mean, this guy held on to everything, and it's great that he did, because it really, you know, kind of paints the big picture. A lot of times you'll pick up a small item or, you know, a helmet or something like that, and, you know, the history is lost because there's not those little personalized items that really kind of, you know, tell the individual story. So it's nice to have these little pieces just to kind of complement the grouping.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, we haven't gotten too many questions, really. It just somebody had asked about the eagle nest swamp picker, and I answered him on that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's about it. So we'll just keep on rolling to the next piece you got there. I see an infamous Ike jacket.
Yes. So you know, I was kind of going to take a more you know, as collectors, you know, we have to look at it for the coolness factor, but then it's good to know kind of the you know, the background of each item and understand what their purpose was, and, you know, the proper nomenclature, things like that. So I was going to kind of take both paths with that and just kind of go over each item that's on the jacket. So, you know, as Erik said, this is called an Ike jacket. It's actually a model 1944 field jacket, but it was more, you know, it was made famous because Dwight D. Eisenhower was, you know, shown photograph wearing this jacket, and it became known as the Eisenhower or Ike jacket. So, you know, on the jacket itself, we have, you know, again, all the accoutrements. You have your U.S.-made 101st shoulder sleeve insignia. Here you have his rank. He was a master sergeant. Down here, a little bit lower, you have his overseas bars. So each bar would signify 6 months of service, showing, you know, 18 months total overseas service. And then you have one service stripe, which would signify 3 years service total. On the front, you have your collar brass, you have your U.S., and I'm going to do a little close-up there, and you have your infantry. On the left-hand side here, you have what's called a discharge insignia, or the ruptured duck, which is known by collectors. And then below that, you have your presidential unit citation with one oak leaf cluster. The oak leaf cluster would signify an additional award of that. And these were issued on the, I guess, the battalion up to the divisional level. Moving over to the left side, you have another set of jump wings, and the interesting thing about this is they have what's called an arrowhead device, and that would signify one combat jump. This wasn't an official thing, but a lot of I'm sorry, it's actually a combat star. This would signify.
The arrowhead was for an invasion jump.
Yeah. So this would just signify one jump. It wasn't an official thing, but a lot of veterans did that just to show, you know, that they made that jump. And then what you have here is you have your European, African, Middle Eastern campaign ribbon with one silver service star, and then there's the arrowhead device signifying a combat jump or an amphibious landing, you know, for other people who might have worn that. Next to that, you have your American Defense Ribbon, which would signify enlistment prior to Pearl Harbor. And then you have your Good Conduct Medal, and, you know, just a soldier in good standing. During World War II, the regs only required 1 year of service. Now I think it's 3 years, if I'm correct on that. And then below that, you have your Combat Infantryman badge, which, you know, was awarded based on being an infantryman and satisfactory performing infantry duties, being assigned to an infantry unit during, you know, such time as engaging active ground combat, and then actively engaging the enemy in ground combat. So, you know, that's
we've discussed the CIB. I'm very proud of mine. Now,
there you go. Hey.
Angie Martin wants to know why ruptured duck.
Why ruptured duck? You know, I should have written that down. It's basically the way that the eagle looks. It doesn't really look like an eagle per se. It more looks like a duck. So that's why, you know, a lot of servicemen at the time just adopted that name as a nickname for the insignia.
Yeah,
looks like a
it's
goose.
definitely slang, and it's because when you look at it, the wing looks broken by the circle that goes around it,
Yep.
and the eagle looks more like a duck, and that's where they came up with the slang term ruptured duck. And they actually issued those because during the war, guys would literally get out of the service and still be in Europe. They hadn't come home yet.
Yep.
So guys that were still on active duty had curfews and places they couldn't go and stuff like that. While the guys that got out, the only clothes they had were their service uniform. So they'd be walking around getting harassed like they're still on active duty because they were in their service uniform. So then they started issuing the ruptured ducks to those that were discharged, and that let people know, like officers and MPs and Shore Patrol, that those guys were out of the service. They were waiting to go home.
And then actually, stateside, so if you didn't wear your service uniform, they actually had a lapel pin that you could wear, so that way you could signify that you were, you know, honorably discharged.
Right, that you had been,
yeah.
right, honorably discharged. Yep. That's it. It's an interesting piece. I think they only issued those during World War II, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I think they only issued that during World War II. I don't think they carried that to Korea.
No, it wasn't issued for Korea. It was specific to World War II.
Right. Well, cool. Well, there was a good question, and she's satisfied with that answer. So let's get into some of these photos, Eric. I'm excited for Drew. Actually, if you don't mind, let's get Drew introduced real quick since he's a bit tardy.
Hey guys, it's Drew, the California Picker. And I'm sorry, I was just coming in, got a little late, but better late than never. And
were you out back shooting another shirtless video?
No, but I was shirtless. It's like
Californians.
I hate to brag, but today was really hot. It was like maybe 89 today, maybe 87 degrees, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh man, we were only like low 70s.
Yeah. So hey, welcome to our guest. Erik is your name?
Yes, that's correct.
Hey Erik, I'm Drew.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I enjoyed all that stuff you taught us there.
Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome, Drew. Well, I just want to get you introduced and make sure you're sitting down for these photos because you're going to have a lot to talk about, I bet.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So with the grouping, I was kind of break this down into maybe 2 episodes because there's so much to this grouping, and I think it's really interesting and people would appreciate it. But we'll jump into the photos. With this grouping, I found with it some original photo negatives. You know, as I said previously, Charles was an amateur photographer. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and you'll see here a photo of the negatives. And as you can see, it says negatives with 501 boys, which would be the 501st PIR. Here's some more negatives, pictures from the 101st Airborne, 1945. And then these were ones that were taken actually during the stateside when he was in basic training. So what I did was I wound up having all of the photos developed, or more so transferred that are positive images. So let me just do my screen share again. And here we go. All right. So these are some of the stateside photos. I'm not going to go through all of them. There's quite a few of them. So, you know, just kind of get a basic idea. This would be probably around November, December of 1941. So, you know, we were getting into the war. Pearl Harbor had happened. You know, but a lot of these guys, you know, they just enlisted, so they're kind of getting all their new gear. You can see them using some older equipment. You know, they're carrying 1903 Springfields, which, you know, if anybody's familiar, you know, eventually we went to the M1 Garand. You can see that they're using, you know, even the old longer bayonets things like that. But these photos are interesting just because they're showing happier times. You know, they're all stateside. You know, nothing's really, you know, Pearl Harbor happened, but, you know, and the war is in motion in Europe, but, you know, it's kind of a new thing to us here in the U.S. So, you know, these guys are just having a good time. So, you know, you can see here they're showing off their gas masks. You know, just kind of hanging out, goofing off.
Can you click on some of those? Because a lot of the details are lost in the smaller photos when it gets over to YouTube. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to scroll through them all, but maybe like the ones with the gas masks, the really cool ones, if you wouldn't mind highlighting those.
Oh wait, you know what? You know what? It's not coming up. I'm sorry. You know what? It's not sharing the right screen. That's why. Hold on, bear with me for 1 second.
That's all right. You'll get used to this.
Little technical issues here. Bear with me. Here we go. How's that? They coming through better now? All right, looks like
cool,
they are.
man. Cool.
Yeah. I got a quick question.
Shoot.
What was the time span between Pearl Harbor and the time that we introduced the atom bomb?
Well, you're talking, you know, the atom bomb wasn't dropped until 1945. So Pearl Harbor happened on December 7th, 1941. So you're talking, you know, a 4-year span between when Pearl Harbor happened and when we dropped the bomb. Actually, a little less than 4 years.
And is it your opinion or anybody's opinion that we would have been working on that regardless, or we worked on that exclusively because we were attacked? I just had that debate with somebody the other day. I just wanted to find out your opinion.
I don't think we were working on it that soon. I think it was a later development. I mean, you know, because even the Germans at the time, they were working on it, and I think they were actually more further along its development than we were at the time. But you know, Hitler, he's got his big head, and you know, he kind of forewent going that route, and you know, it got the better of him. You know, thankfully he didn't, because I think the outcome of the war obviously would have been a lot different than it was. But you know, I can't say definitively. Obviously, it was, you know, I'm sure all of the documents have been released about the Manhattan Project and timing. Unfortunately, I just haven't looked into it enough to see when it started, and you know, the progression up until 1945 when, you know, the bomb was eventually dropped.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, I know that some of their scientists had defected to the United States, and and we were able to procure their services, and that's how it all came down.
Absolutely, and you know, that's you know, if it wasn't for that, I mean, you know, and you know, the Purple Heart, you know, is a good example. I mean, we were prepared to invade Japan, and you know, we produced hundreds of thousands of Purple Hearts in preparation for that, and actually some of those Purple Hearts are still being issued today. So, you know, the U.S. was ready to go in full stream and invade Japan. You know, there was obviously other things besides the Purple Heart that were, you know, planning that was being done in preparation for that. But, you know, it's just something that always comes to my mind. I'm a medal collector too. But so, yeah, you know, it could have gone either way. I think, you know, really, you know, Roosevelt's death may have played a part in that, obviously. I think, you know, if Roosevelt, you know, hadn't died and he was still in office, you know, we may not have dropped the bomb. We may have, you know, gone full invasion. So, you know, there's a lot of things that went on that, you know, kind of dictated the route that we were going to take on that.
Cool.
Very cool. So, what other pictures do you got for us, Eric?
All right. So these are the photos after the. I guess these are May or June, and Burke's got it. And just bear with me for 1 second as I do the screen share.
And I missed it in the beginning. Do you have a relation to this soldier or this individual, or how did you acquire these?
I won't go into detail, but basically there was an estate clean out that occurred, and you know, they were found through an estate clean out. Okay. So I actually, in addition to Charles's group, or Ivis, grouping. I have his son's grouping. His son was in the Air Force during Vietnam, and I'll talk about that at a later date. And introduce his grouping as well. So this is kind of very multifaceted grouping. Because
Gotcha.
You missed the beginning, Drew, but Eric's going to be a new panel member with us starting next week.
Cool.
So he'll get to talk militaria. I'm trying to take over the panel with militaria.
So real quick, Eric. So somebody, Laura Lee, has a question out from the chat. Basically wants to know if you know what kind of camera types that he was using, and I think you said something about you've got the cameras, right?
Well, I have. All right, here's the deal. So I have this camera, which came out of his estate. But after further research, and it's 120 film, which would match the film that he would use later in the war. But after some research, I found out that this camera was actually produced in 1946. So it would be, unless he was a time traveler, it's unfortunately a year after he, was discharged.
Chances are his trusty, rusty camera probably wore out, and he bought a new one after the war.
I would imagine. I'm having a hard time here. Let me just see if I can
there you go.
get these photos to come up. All right.
Maybe a little brownie camera. They use
So these are the very interesting photos.
Check that out.
So these photos were taken in the Berchtesgaden area, and what you're seeing here, you're seeing an officer. This isn't Charles. This is an officer. Kind of interesting. He's carrying his 45, but he's with the 101st. But you're probably wondering, what's this artwork about? Why are military guys carrying an artwork? So Hermann Göring, who was one of Hitler's right-hand mans and in charge of the Luftwaffe, amongst other things, he was a very eccentric person, and basically went around Europe buying up artwork or just taking it. So the 101st eventually discovered his cache of artwork that he had stolen. It was all stored in a train, tucked away, so it couldn't be found, just in case they were able to escape and they could come back and find these items. So after some, and here's Charles here, posing with some of the artwork. So the thought process here is, Charles most likely was part of the original transfer from where the artwork was found to where it was eventually put on display by the 101st. So I think a lot of these photos might be part of him kind of cataloging, the artwork, and then, also capturing some photos as mementos of, their big find.
There's some paintings I recognize there. Can you go backwards?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, right now, all these copies of these photos have been sent to Robert Edsel, and he, you might not be familiar with his name, but there was a movie that came out about a year and a half ago called Monuments Men, or actually less than a year ago, I guess. And it's all about a division or in the military, not division, but a group of men in the military who were tracking down all of this lost artwork. Mm-hmm. So Robert Edsel wrote the book on that about the history of these men who were tasked with finding this artwork, and they have a foundation called the Monuments Men Foundation. And they're in the process of actually identifying a lot of this artwork for me, and they may use some, some of these photos in some upcoming, presentations they're going to do about, this artwork that was stolen by the Nazis.
Is this the first time they're seeing these photos?
Yes, this is the first time they're seeing. This is the first time, up until December when I acquired this grouping, nobody else had seen the photos except for probably Charles and his family.
Wow. Can you go backwards, Eric, a second? Can you go backwards?
Yeah. How far? Let me say when.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. That one right there. That is a very old piece right there. Yeah, that's almost Gothic. That's almost medieval. That's probably older than the other. And that little miniature girl in the background you see, that's a very famous painting. Yeah. I think that might be Velasquez.
I recognize that one too. If you go back a picture, there's another picture of it. More, I think, one more back maybe.
Now we're at the start.
Forward now. Forward.
Yeah.
The little girl is
here we go,
The little girl is pretty damn famous.
The one behind, yeah.
And if you go one more.
Yeah, I think there's one more after this one.
There we go. Now you
there
can
it
see
is.
it.
There's
Yeah.
a full picture of it, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I tried identifying some of this online, but it's hard to come up with a, kind of the search words to use to identify. The Adam and Eve one was the one I was focusing on, and I found ones that were comparable or kind of similar, but I couldn't find that exact one to identify it. So,
well, by you giving this to the Monument Men Foundation, see, I mean, they've got inventories of trying to reclaim or return a lot of this to their rightful owners still, because there's so much of it that was just hoarded by the Germans that, and a lot of it got destroyed and nobody knew what was what. But maybe by you giving them these photos, they can now kind of track if they know where this is at. They know this painting, for example, maybe nobody has seen it now, and they see that it was there, so now they can kind of figure out, well, where did it go? Who has it?
Yeah.
That last one could have been a tall Renoir. You never know. I mean, these guys took out everything from the.
Yeah, and there's a website called fold3.com, and on there you can actually there's actually original documentation from the period, and it's free for anybody to access, and it's basically the original interrogation of people who were close to Goring, his secretaries, etc., and their involvement in helping him to procure these pieces of artwork. So, if anybody wants to do any further research, you can obviously visit the Monuments Men website or the Monuments Men Foundation website, or if you go on Fold 3, you can find some of that content there. So.
Cool. That one
I thought you'd really enjoy that part, Drew. I really, I thought that would really get you going for the evening.
Oh yeah.
So just moving a little bit along. So we have some sombering photos here. We obviously see there's a fallen soldier, and these men are carrying that soldier to his resting place. These are all 101st Airborne. Based on the tactical markings on the helmet, there were 501st headquarters. Progressing on, you can see the folding of the flag, and then the final resting spot. And you can notice in the background, just tell how many men who fall in of all religions. You can see Star of Davids and crosses, signifying the individual's religion. And then here we have, kind of moving on to, I'm not really sure what the context of these photos are, but we see some, kind of a shipyard here. I imagine this is them preparing to go home. Some photos of some friends, very well taken, like I said. He really had a knack for, capturing that moment. Again, actually, this photo is flipped. I have to take care of that, but in the background you can see you have a 9th Air Force guy back here, and then you have another 101st Airborne fella. And here we are, 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment headquarters.
Did you have any idea of the volume that you were purchasing, or could you look at any of this stuff, or was it just a crapshoot?
To be honest with you, I got to go in a little bit. So the person contacted me on Facebook. I actually acquired another grouping that this person acquired some of the items of, and they were local. So I saw that they were selling some of those items from this other grouping on eBay, and I contacted them about the other person's items they were selling's trunk. And then they never got back to me. This was in June of last year. And then around December, they contact me and say, we have this grouping. We know you have an interest in militaria. It's to a 101st Airborne guy, and I was like, oh, this sounds great. And you never know what you're walking into. I literally walked into their home, and everything was laid out on the table, and I just kind of, I almost fainted. I think there was just so much, and the house. They're still in the process of sorting through all of the contents of the house. So every now and then I'll get an email from them saying, hey, we found some more stuff. So even after my first visit, I was still going back and picking up more items because they were just digging out more stuff related to his service. I mean, like I talk about his letters, and I'll get into that maybe next episode. But there's literally 500 to 600 letters that he wrote to and received from family and friends. I mean, so you kind of have a whole story from when he enlisted until when he eventually got out of service. Some of the letters are written on German letterhead, from places like Hitler's Eagle's Nest and the Reichschancellor building, places like that. So it's just really interesting, and it's a very good. You never find a grouping like this so complete. You usually find little pieces here and there, but to have the guys' uniforms and all of the paperwork and there's just so much content that it's amazing, and it's what I enjoy most about this hobby. So it's really kept me busy, and I've enjoyed every minute of just sorting through the stuff and reading through his letters, et cetera, et cetera. So
that was so cool about the letterheads, that some of the letterhead he wrote on, and I kind of wonder, is it just because he needed a piece of paper and he grabbed something, or did he really know? It's like, look at this. We conquered. We conquered, and this is what we conquered. So here's and he's writing on the letterhead coming out of these big German headquarters and all these places, and writing home to his wife or whatever.
I think it was two-part. I think it was one. You wrote, he wrote so much that sometimes whatever you found, you had to write on, and then two, I think he did it too because in a lot of the letters, they're between him and his father. And they're talking about the unrest over here in Germany, and his father was very passionate about, the problems caused by the Nazis, and obviously it had an impact on him and his family. I'll get into more detail because there's photos also with annotations on the reverse that are of family members, and it talks about such and so, so and so was killed by the Nazis in 1942, or something like that. And it's just, so they lost a lot of family as a result of the war, and they kept records of it, and they made sure to write it down so that people knew what happened, even if it was just with their family. But now it's nice to be able to share it, the full story, with more than just their immediate family, and everybody can kind of see what happened. Know that full story. So the photos, just real quick. This is the Eagle's Nest. This is the Berghof. This was Hitler's Bavarian getaway. Obviously, they didn't take any mercy on the building. So rightfully so.
Yeah.
And some of these photos are kind of out of order. Here's again, we're in the Berchtesgaden area, and you can see here you have an MP, 101st Airborne MP, and you can see the Eagles or the Nazi symbol above the doorway or the archway there.
I was going to say that last photo you showed looked like a shambles, and I thought that place was kind of a swanky castle.
Well, this is in Berchtesgaden, but it's not the Berghof. So the Berghof would be the Eagle's Nest, or Hitler's getaway. This is another building that's in the area. So,
I see.
There's a picture.
Mm-hmm.
So here again, you see the Alps behind Charles. Standing in front of a Willys MB, or Willys Jeep. I'm sorry.
Double exposure.
Yeah. Here he is, posing with AH himself. This is actually taken at in Berchtesgaden, and it was a hunting lodge that Himmler used, or was it's known as Himmler's hunting lodge. It actually goes by another name, but they're just hanging out there, smoking a couple stogies, and
that picture right there is, to me, that's the most valuable one, because here's this guy who just had, who knows how many members of his family killed by the Nazis. This guy has been working with the Americans. He's been trying to, he's battling in a different way, right? So here he is now sitting at one of the top-ranking, Nazi members with his feet up on the guy's desk.
Feet up on the desk.
Picture of Hitler going, hey, who's the winner now?
Exactly.
It's so cool. I love it.
It's cool too. Is they can almost like they're celebrating. They have like the time to celebrate almost. Here we just did this.
It's like it's in a movie where they're like you could just imagine the other guys standing around smoking stogies and like making fun at Hitler's picture, you know.
Absolutely.
The guest of honor at their celebration, you know.
Like,
See, that leads me to
guy?
believe that he knew what he was doing when he wrote that on the stationery.
I think so
that
too.
was part of it.
Oh yeah.
He's a smart man.
I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Very smart man. Yeah, he did too.
So here's the building that the MP was. And you can see here the archway and the eagle. And this one always fun, kind of makes me laugh. Dismount point, visitors parking lot. So obviously they had a lot of people, coming by to want to, see Berchtesgaden and be able to step foot on, Hitler's getaway and maybe
and
find some
that looks like an
souvenirs.
American flag flying there, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. And actually, Charles talks about in the letters how great it was to see the American flag fly over that. So, and here's a ship.
What year are you saying these are taken?
This is probably around June, July of 1945.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. This is, after VE Day. War in Europe has ended, and now they're just kind of, a lot of men, they couldn't immediately go home. You had to earn so many points before you could be discharged. So that, that's why we were, a lot of men were on occupation duty because they had to earn those points to be able to be discharged. So that's why even though. And also at the same time, the war in the Pacific was still happening, and they were gearing up to send soldiers over there to participate in that. So they didn't immediately get sent home just because there was victory in Europe. There was still another war going on across the other side of the world, and then also you had to be held to so many points before you could be discharged from the military. So.
And is that the German Alps right there, or the Italian Alps, or what is that?
That's the German Bavarian Alps.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And here we are. I imagine this is the ride home, and you can kind of see a difference in, just how the men look compared to the earlier photos when, they were still stateside, a little weathered and worn, but big smiles on their face, I'm sure, because they're happy to be, going home at this point.
He was a small guy, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, that's not Wahler. Actually, I'm not sure who that is. Yeah.
Oh.
These are just, unfortunately, these were negatives. There are original photos of these as well. Some of them have, names on the reverse, but not all of them. So, I've been trying to link up who's who and, do individual research on those people as well, in addition to, the research I'm doing on this, Charles. Here he is, and he, if you look, he's wearing the same jacket that I, had behind me. And you can tell by the, shoulder sleeve insignia. And there's the pipe.
Hell yeah.
You said that was English made, right?
That's British made. Yep. Yes, sir.
Which is, because I know a lot of people probably just instant thing that popped in their head. Well, a lot of jackets have that patch. But when you start getting into the specifics of patches, especially English made, you can see unique characteristics in the photo that you're able to match it to the jacket.
It's a science in of itself, shoulder sleeve insignia and patches in general. I actually, since I'm going to be a permanent member, I'll probably go over that one point later on, kind of show some of my patches and the differences between theater made and U.S. made. And this one always interests me because you have, a 7th Armored Division guy over here, so, a lot of these guys were just happy to, be going home.
Oh, that was a Army Air Force guy in the middle, wasn't it?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure out what I've been trying to figure out what the DUI is, and I've been having some hard time, finding it. It could very well be, or it could be an armored division. It's kind of hard to say for certain, or even a tank destroyer. There's a lot of possibilities there. So I haven't been able to identify it specifically, but here he is, copy of life, old Ike on the front of it.
Yeah, he looks like he could be like in a mansion or something. Slap another suit on him, and he's like, he's a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool.
here he is. He's actually wearing a model 1943 jacket here. Unfortunately, that wasn't with the group, but. And then that's pretty much it. I'm not sure the context of this. Obviously there was a train there, and I don't know if it was, at what point it was taken. But it's just interesting. This is clearly, happier times. Obviously they're going home. You can see this guy. He's probably got. It looks like possibly even like a Luger there or something. Some of his spoils. He's wearing a jump jacket. So these are all 101st guys.
Just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's it for now. I mean, like I said, there's a lot to this group. I'd like to share more of it, and I was thinking about maybe next episode just continuing, because I don't want to take up the entire show. I could probably do 3 or 4 shows based on this group, but I think that kind of gives a good idea of what the grouping consists of, and then maybe next episode I'll go into detail about some of the other items like the letters and some of the medals and things like that, insignia, etc.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great, man, and I really appreciate it, Eric. I appreciate
thank you, man. It's pretty awesome.
Coming on as a guest this week and also joining us on the panel from here on out. It'd be fun to have another militaria guy. Are you going to get a chance to post any of this over on the forum?
Yeah, actually, it's already up on the forum. The whole grouping's up there. So, if anybody ever wants to go over to Allied Militaria Forum, the grouping's there. I haven't put up the photos yet, so eventually I'll get around to them. Has a lot of resizing and things like that have to be done, prior to posting. But they're definitely going to be available on the forum for others to see. And then eventually, I've already been in discussion with a couple publishers who are looking to use them in upcoming books, the photos and the grouping itself. I don't know, I don't want to go in detail about that. Maybe I can, discuss that later, later episode. It really hasn't been confirmed, but I know that they will be seen elsewhere, besides here and on the forum and stuff like that. So
that'd be cool. Looking at books like,
stuff,
hey, I
man.
saw that before
the
anybody else.
Definitely loved it. It's been just sweet, man. I knew this was going to be a big hit. Hopefully, Drew's heart's come down a little bit from the artwork photos. But yeah, we'll move on. So you'll get to see kind of how the rest of the show goes, Eric, and then next week, we may have a guest, we may not. Hell, we might just do you for week number 2, give you a little bit of extended time to talk about another chunk of the grouping. But right now, we'll slide on over to Dan. What you got for us tonight, Dan?
Hello. Okay, so I collect radio stuff, and this past week I kind of came upon a cool estate sale where the guy was a radio fan, so I pulled in a bunch of parts and pieces. So I thought I'd show some of these little things that I got. He was a ham radio and CD radio operator. I got these handheld microphones, and kind of cool off of old radios. This one doesn't have a plug on it. And here's another one. This is an older microphone. This one is kind of neat because it is it's a handheld mic. Oh crap! I just got my headset wire caught in there. This is out of this is an airplane set made by Narco, and they make airplane radios. So this is a microphone for an airplane, and plus it has that kind of a plug. The 1/4-inch jacks they use for airplane stuff. And I got some other cool desktop mount stuff. So this is an old General Electric radio, push the talk button down here, kind of thing.
That's like something you see in what was that movie with the kid that was always acting bad with the principal. I'm going to make him fool myself. He talks funny. What's his name? He's a comedian. Yeah. No, crickets. can't believe y'all don't remember that from the 90s. They did a couple of them. The guy's got like no neck and he talks like real funny. Oh, whatever. Just keep going, Dan.
All right, we'll think of it. Somebody look in the chat. Somebody's probably thinking.
Yeah,
of it.
somebody will probably
Somebody's
post.
got it. Yeah, but that's what it looks like. A principal's microphone is.
Oh yeah, okay. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, they hit it and make
Right.
the morning announcements.
You will be
Yeah.
having. Eric, please come to the principal's office.
Yeah.
So this one's another one. This is a
Sorry.
power. This is a power. It's a little bit of a power transistorized power amp inside of it.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Was it that one? Almost all those old school movies.
Yeah.
And,
Sorry, go ahead, man.
So we got this, and it's kind of a cool one. These are all metal. This one's metal, by the way. It's really heavy.
Looks heavy, yeah.
Got a nice look to it.
Love that 50s look to it. The greenish blue, you know.
Yeah.
Bueller.
Name one of these.
Dude, that one's cool.
Yeah.
Like a Radio City Music Hall type thing or something.
Yeah, it's really not old. I don't know if they make these anymore. This model may be from maybe the 80s or whatever, but this is a real popular TV and ham radio. The push to talk is either here, where you can hold it and talk this way, or this here. It's got this cool
I was gonna say, what's that on the back?
emblem on the back. This is
It's got like a.
Static Silver Eagle is the name of this
Nice.
microphone.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It is missing a screw right here though. After I picked it up, I realized it was missing that, but anyhow, and it's got a little Silver Eagle logo on there. But
Dan,
anyhow,
what do you think that dates to?
I think this might be from maybe the 80s or something like that.
Okay.
I didn't check to see if they still make these today. Some of the ones I saw being sold were being sold new in the box. There were quite a few of them, so they must. I wonder if they still make those or not. One of the things I got in that lot was this little guy that's been sitting in the background here. It's called Select Antenna. What this is it's a antenna booster basically for an AM radio. But you notice there's no connectors, so you don't plug anything into this. And what you do is you have an AM radio tuned to whatever your frequency is, and you just set this down near your radio. And I don't know if I could test this here. I don't have a big enough radio to show you. But anyhow, then once you set it down there and you'll hear the signal, and you can tune this. That it tends to it's got that theory where when you go up to a radio and you put your hand on it or close to it, you act as the antenna and the signal boosts because of that. That's the same theory. This one though is more precisely tuned, so you can tune closer to the frequency that your frequency of your radio is sitting on, and it actually boosts it by supposedly 30 decibels. So it'll bring it up about 30 decibels more than what your radio would normally be, an AM radio. So basically, you set this on top. I think you have to set it within 6 or 8 inches of the radio for it to work properly. But yeah, they don't sell these anymore. Ended up getting like 2 of these. So I'm adding this to my collection because it's kind of a cool radio piece. Probably from the 60s. Is what these are. There's all the instructions are on the bottom of it too. They were made in Wisconsin. But it's kind of a cool little device. And what else? Oh, I got one more thing since you were bringing pictures in. I had some pictures
Gilbert Gottfried. That's who I was thinking of.
What's that?
Gilbert Gottfried.
Okay. I don't remember seeing that.
I'm going to find the movie because I
Okay.
know everybody thinks I'm nuts, which, yes, I am clinically. But he played a principal in a movie in the 90s.
Okay.
And that's what that mic reminded me of.
So somebody asked me, I think it's Wade. Wade's asking me if it's those are crystal mics. Actually, they're not. They plug in. I mean, they're powered. So I don't know. I don't believe they are. I got this too. This is kind of cool. This kind of
Problem Child. That was the name of the movie. There. I'm happy now.
so, the place I got those microphones was this lady's house, and she was the one who had lived there and had passed away. And this was a previous husband, but I from what the lady told me that was running the sale, that she was not married to him. She was married to somebody else later or something like that. But anyhow, she had these pictures. They found these pictures in their house, and I thought they were kind of cool. They almost look like movie stars.
Yeah.
And it came with another little. This is more black and white. This was actually, I found this stuffed behind one of these other ones. These kind of have a yellow tinge to them because they've been sitting out. But look at the difference in the color. I'm talking about yellow lights over here, so it's kind of hard to see. This is more real black and white, which is the way the picture really was, than what these are. These kind of yellowed, sitting out, exposed, because this doesn't have glass in it. So I found this stuff behind it. It's got the original photographer's marks on the back and everything. It actually was a photographer in Hollywood. The guy's name was something Amos. James Amos or something like that in Hollywood.
Oh, cool. I love the old couple's photos.
Yeah.
There's just something, I don't know.
He was a pilot, right? He's got...
Looks like a crusher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't see any metal... Well, he's got wings.
Oh, yeah. Looks like a bombardier.
Bombardier wings.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't recognize that.
There's probably an aerial gunner.
Yeah. Very cool.
Oh, yeah. No, I guess it is an aerial gunner, huh?
It is aerial gunner wings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then through some other stuff I picked up, like I got a load of big giant boxes of slides, and I've been kind of going through them a little time. But in there was this section of these slides. So they're stereo. They're called realist stereo transparencies, 3D stereo. They're called 3D stereo. The viewer for these, the little handheld, it looked like a little pair of binoculars, and you put these in. And when you look through, and I don't have a viewer, and I've been trying to find one. I'm probably gonna buy one on eBay just so I can look at these the way they truly were meant to be looked at. Because I'm holding them up to the light or scanning them, you're only seeing the regular image, which is okay. But when you look at both, you get a 3D effect. So you get this depth field.
Could you use an old stereo card viewer and put them in that and then look up at the light with that?
I don't know, because the separation, separation has to be. Actually, you should be able just to kind of go. I don't know if you
well, the stereo cards aren't they side by side?
Yeah, the big cards, those old antique ones they're big cards. Yeah. This was like a little ViewMaster, except it just had a slot in the top of it. And they're square or rectangle, and you slip these down into it.
You could probably make one, Dan, because all you need is a piece that separates your eyes, and to be able to slide it to bring it into focus to your eyes.
Bet you can find one on YouTube.
Well, eBay's got a million of them. Some of them are like $9, and so I mean, buying one. I made it. They're just plastic, and they're made to just when you buy these. Now, the only way you view these is to view them in the viewer. There's no projectors that would project this in 3D, so you'd be looking at them like a ViewMaster, like the old ViewMasters, the round reels for ViewMaster. So you would do the same thing with that. But anyhow.
Well, hey, Dan, there's your private label idea. You need to come up with a way to project them in 3D.
Okay.
There you go.
Everybody sit there like this. Look at the screen like this. So let me just show you real quick. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and if I can do this right. I did capture, was able to capture. Uh-oh, here we go, back in time. So let's see, this is not the actual one that I want.
Careful, don't hit the wrong area.
So some of these, this is what some of these are. They were, look like this is either Jamaica or the Bahamas. And it might be the Bahamas.
Car.
Yeah, hold on a second.
It's funny.
I guess it's not gonna let me. Yeah, so this is probably early '60s or late '50s, early '60s, something like that. I'll go this way. Oh, it's taking me the wrong way. This is not showing me the pictures the way I want to see it. This is Cypress Garden. Cypress Gardens in Florida. And there's more of these. I haven't scanned them all yet, but it's a little bit backwards. I think I'm looking at the wrong side. But there's some really cool images, and the colors are really brilliant, being that you know, they're slides, and that's what I like about slides is there is some dust and stuff on them. You can kind of see some of that going on here, but.
Hey, look! Is that Chad water skiing?
It wants me to show you these, so I might as well just show you these. Well, here's some cool ones from. I put these all up. I just loaded these really quick up on Google, and it like wants to sort them all these weird different ways. So I'm back to it's mixed them up. It's mixing them up. This is a Cypress Garden one. Obviously, it's flipped. See, 1961 is what it is here. It's backwards. So these were all probably 1961. And some of the cool ones I like in this set is like this one. This is now Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Oh,
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
Probably same time frame. This was in the same set, so I'm guessing it was like somebody's vacation and they went to Florida from wherever, maybe California.
You had a restaurant back there, huh?
And that's one there. It's kind of neat, kind of old. And then there's another one here, a cool downtown. There's another picture. You can see the wrought iron framework around. So this is New Orleans. And around Bourbon Street.
Oh.
There's another really cool one of a looks like a strip club on here. Okay, where'd it go? Where did it go? I'm sure I copied all those. They're all mixed up. That's
Dan, did you transfer these? Is that what you said, or?
Yeah. I put them. I have a thing on my scanner where I can scan these from my scanner. It'll scan slides, and this is kind of a neat picture. It's not at its best quality. It's not at its original quality. Quality's better, but it's actually pretty cool because this lady is really clear in the picture, and then of course the depth perception is blurry in the back. This is obviously like the Bahamas. So I have a feeling these people did a trip across Florida, Bahamas. And here's like the bars that have the, I don't know if you can do that in Florida, you know, they have them, the mermaid swimming in the pool tank in the bars, that kind of stuff. And then, we got, oh, here it is. This is the one I wanted to show you. This is pretty cool. See, this is Bourbon Street.
Now, these pictures look like they were taken yesterday.
Yeah, wow.
They're really clear. That's what I love about slides. Because if they're kept well and they don't get all the nitrates and they don't deteriorate, they're kept in a clean and cool and dried environment. They're just like they were taken. I mean, they're perfect. And you can now with scanning and stuff, you can scan high resolution off of them and you just get the best picture. These are only scanned about 300 DPI, but I could have done 1200 and probably got a really, really clean.
Hey, can you zoom in a little bit, Dan? I don't know if we can see like the.
Let me see if I can. There is it does say something on here. Let me get back there. I'm trying to zoom. It's not letting me zoom in.
Dan, do you blow the dust away from them before you print them?
I didn't. Because I'm just doing I just did a quick scan of them.
Oh, okay.
But this says the Old French Opera House Club, Continuous Entertainment. This sign right here says Bourbon Street. And then right here it says...
Love the crooked lamppost up the top.
Yeah.
Or the
And this
that's for our OCD viewers.
This is pictures. These are all photographs of the dancers.
That's what I wanted to say.
And this one says Ouma Latin Fireball.
Oh wow!
That's a picture of her right there.
Oh wow!
Ooh la la!
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. So then in another set, which they're all mixed in here. I got some regular slides. These are just regular 35 millimeter slides, and it's actually of this, this guy. This guy took them, and this particular slide, on the back of it, he actually wrote in his own handwriting. I think he sent it to his wife about, hey, do you recognize this guy? He's smiling, thinking of you, or something like that. Whatever. So he's sending it back to his wife. But this is dated 1953. It was a Pacific Fleet tour, or called the Far East Tour. It happened in 1954, 1953, 54ish. And this was the guy who was taken. Now I don't know what ship he was on, but the pictures are of one. This is the USS Wasp, WASP, and it's got some really cool images on it. And it was funny because when I started reading about this ship, I mean, this thing was actually used. It was built in like 1943 or something like that, or 42 or 43. It was in service around then, and it got scrapped like in the 70s, 75 or something like that. But it served active duty, and then it went into a reserve mode, training mode, and they brought it back into active duty again in the 50s. And it had a collision. In its history, it had a collision with another ship, and the front section of it was. This is an aircraft carrier, by the way. The front section of it was like destroyed, but it made it back to port. I have some other pictures of it. I don't have these in any order. The front section of it was like really destroyed, so they actually they needed to get it back in service really quick, and they cut the front of another scrapped aircraft carrier off and brought it and replaced it, put it back on the front of the Wasp in like 3 days. And had it back in service in 3 days, which was like supposedly a naval record for repairing and getting a ship back in service again. It was really interesting. And these are Panthers, these are jets. This is the Wasp also. And I'm just going to go through the rest of these. So there's one. This is a mix of some of these pictures. There's some really cool. This is backwards. This is a medical ship. The Wasp was in Japan, harbored in Japan at the time. And then this is some other. I've got the names of all these ships and stuff. I was looking them up. And on this one, this slide actually has written on it that he was with the VS-75. I'm sorry, VS-25, and the VS-20 was coming to relieve them, and so they put this on this banner on one of the wings as these guys were arriving or something like that. So yeah, this is kind of cool. Pictures of the guy standing on the deck. Here's the carrier, and this is the ship evidently that he was on. I don't know, it might have been a refueling ship, because there's pictures I have over here of them. Oh, this is a neat one. Why does this not go in order? This thing out. Like when I go one way, it doesn't. This is in Japan.
Mitsubishi.
Yeah, 1953. Mitsubishi. And, there they are. So the ship he's on, see, they're running like fuel lines across to refuel this ship. So he might have been on a refueling ship.
It's so cool, man. It's just, I don't know how you do it, Dan. It must be the California luck. You definitely come up with some cool stuff.
Well, I tell you, I found this. It was in one of these. Let me get back over here. So I was in Salvation Army, actually, and there was a whole pile. Let's see if this will shift back. There's a whole pile of these, and
yeah, I always see them, but they're already emptied out. And
yeah, I always
them
shake
away.
them to see if they rattle, because the carousel will have slides in them. But I
Right.
went through. This is almost empty. I haven't gone through, and these are more pictures that came with those ones. These pictures are just scenes from Japan in 1953. And also, when you get slides that have this red border on them, that red border means they did this red border in the 50s, just before, I think, before 1959 or something like that. Before they started 60, they started making the slides that were just white cardboard.
Oh,
So these are
cool.
called red border
That's a
slides.
good tip.
You know?
So you see those, you know it's an old slide. I paid $2 for this. I know there's not supposed to mention anything, but I paid $2 for it.
Hey, man, that's still good stuff.
Yeah. Now, you know, you go through thousands of these, and maybe you get one good reel like this, because the rest of them are all like watching people's home movies, you know? It's
Right.
like Christmas pictures and baby pictures and grandma and grandpa and, you know, everybody and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty boring. But you got to go through a lot of slides sometimes to find some of that stuff.
Right.
So, anyhow, I think that's about it. I don't have anything.
Awesome, Drew.
Oh, wait, one thing.
Go ahead.
I got one more thing.
Or Dan, I said Drew. It's getting late.
Oh, nice.
So I got
Oh,
this.
there you go.
I got this at an auction, and I haven't really taken it, looked at it. The cord's a little wonky, a little bad, but this is a field radio, and I haven't done any cleanup on it. This is the way I found it in here, and I think this is like a night. Where did I see the date on this? It was one of the earlier ones. Well, not quite the earlier ones. The what was it with the leather? They started putting them in. They started taking them out of leather and putting them in canvas, I believe, because they started getting in, like in Japan, or in the Pacific area, because of the humidity. It would get really wet inside of here. The humidity in the leather would just kind of hold it, and it would get wet and it would corrode it really fast. And I think they started sometime in the middle of the war. They started going to more of canvas. But this is a little bit. They started with the leather first, I guess. That's what I read about it. But I collect signal corps stuff, so this goes on my radio field desk, and it's kind of as is. I don't even think I'm going to mess with it.
That's pretty cool. I think I'd find a way to bring that into my house phone.
Yeah, see the wire's old, the old rubber from 1940, right? And it pretty much deteriorated. It's actually really brittle hard. If I were to pull this out, it would just drop all over the place. And
that's cool.
Show it a close up. Yeah, there we go. Oh, nice.
8B. And then here's the top. It actually had, if you can see in there, there's a place for batteries. It had a battery pack, or I don't. It's bigger than a
So
diesel.
there's no crank on this. You can't use it for a torture device, huh?
Oh yeah, you can.
Right here. There it is. There's
there
the
it
crank.
Yeah. So you pull this out, give this a whirl, and you put your tongue on this.
There you go.
That's how you tell if it works.
I think you ought to do an electrifying YouTube video about that.
Yeah, okay. So what this is, what we're talking about for people who don't know, this is like a generator. This actually generates a current. And it'll generate a current pretty high voltage, actually, if you get going with it. And you could get shocked on this. But what it is, this is what they would run wires. Because this is not wireless. They'd run wires, and when you crank this thing, it basically sends a current to activate the other phone. But then the batteries were there for the actual communication piece, talking to whoever's on the other end. But
awesome, awesome. All right, Drew. Well, what do you got tonight, Drew?
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Drew. You're muted.
I mute myself. Turn off my fan. Hold on. So, yeah, you guys might have caught my video this week where I found 3 signatures from a Civil War officer, Colonel John B. Meade, M-E-A-D, and he's from the 8th Regiment from out of Vermont. And he was born in 1831 and died in 1887. And he fought at all sorts of really important historic battles in the Civil War, and he worked his way up from like lieutenant, and then he was I don't know if he jumped sergeant, captain, major, and then finally a colonel. And let me show you his signatures here. There's 3 of them. This first one, they're all called cut signatures. They're cut off of other documents. So these would have been on other documents. I don't know whether they were letters or I have no idea if it was business or have no idea. But it's just what you want to see in a period autograph. It's got that aged brown look on the paper, and then the ink that was made out of, that had a lot of iron oxide in it, would turn brown like that. So black ink way back then turned brown after 150 years, you know?
Right.
Now, not only did I find that one, but on the same piece of paper, this was attached. This has 2 John B. Meade signatures. And this one's possibly even older.
I'm telling you, you California guys just kill me.
Look at the beautiful, graceful quality of that penmanship. And a couple things that my one viewer brought up something that he thought that these didn't match, but I pointed out that people over time, their signature changes. And say for instance this signature right here, there's a little whoop-de-doo down here at the bottom right here. He apparently puts this little symbol next after his name.
Right.
Well, this guy up here did the same thing.
Well, not only that, I mean, people would really have to look into signatures and how people authenticate them. And, you know, I know enough to be dangerous, but one of the biggest things is they look for slight characteristics that are similar, because you can have signatures that look almost completely different, but there is going to be handwriting characteristics that they use in both of them that will link them together, if that makes sense. And like you mentioned, Drew, about one being older and one being newer, that is the case, especially when, you know, maybe not so much Civil War, but when you talk about sports figures, generally the more famous they became, the worse their signature became, because they were doing more and more signing, so they were being sloppier and sloppier with it. So their signatures changed over time.
Totally, Eric. And what's interesting...
And also, it could have been the situation. I mean, you talk about a document that might have been signed before or after or during the heat of battle, might be a little bit more haphazardly done than, you know, say something he was signing as a formal declaration or something that he took a little bit more time.
Busy ducking bullets.
Yeah,
right. Well, not ducking bullets, but you know what I mean. Like, he's out in the field signing a promotion order. He's probably just scribbling on that crap, but if he's sitting back at headquarters signing a promotion order, he's going to take his time and do his signature right, you know.
I mean, I pointed that out in my video and in the response section where somebody was inquiring about that, and I said it's all about context too. It's about in what context were they signing, just what you mentioned. Were they rushed? Was it were they signing a historical document, a deed, or something that they were going to want their signature to look more flamboyant? Like if they were just signing for the milkman, you know, it might not be so graceful, you know.
Right. No, I definitely see some obvious similarities between those signatures.
I mean,
not only that, you can't fake the iron oxide. They've been trying forever, and it can't.
Right.
You know.
No, there's no doubt that these are period signatures. I think this guy was just sort of doubting the fact that I had 3 of them. Now, another little thing that I thought was a telltale sign was it says Randolph, Vermont.
Right.
And he's a known politician dignitary. He sat on committees. He's known in Randolph, Vermont. So there's no other John B. Meade who signs like this from Randolph, Vermont.
Right.
And if that's not enough, I showed on another video where I released this piece of paper from the background here because it's taped down. And that's not a great thing, but I'm pretty good with a sharp knife, and I cut this away because I saw some writing underneath.
Of course, you live in LA. I mean.
Yeah, and then on the back, this is what it said on the back.
Civil War.
Yeah.
It gives his tour of
1831
duty,
to 1887.
his years of service.
Wow.
Colonel.
Yep.
Civil War.
Is that right side up or?
Yeah.
No,
there you
I
go.
wonder if somebody
Sorry.
met him and asked for. I mean, that's kind of. Huh.
So what I
I
think
wonder
that
what the
was,
significance of that is. I mean, it obviously it's not the same handwriting.
oh no, people write down the person's name and who they were for historic reasons, for saving it for their relatives.
Right.
And so that's a collector writing that on the back of that. Now that's not a very good thing to do. I wouldn't do that if I was a savvy collector. You don't want to write on the back of the document, but that's what they did back then.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have items that are written on or tagged, and normally I actually leave the tags. Like I have some glassware where somebody tagged where they bought it, like what flea market, what year, and it's from like the 70s. You know, and I've left it on there because it kind of becomes part of the piece, you know.
So here's this colonel, this war hero. His last, well, he was wounded in the Battle of Cedar Creek, and he fought, I think, 2 other battles after that. But his resume of his conflicts and the battles he was in is pretty darn extensive, you know. Let's see, how do I screen share this, guys?
Over to the left side of your screen there, Drew.
The green
Okay.
box with the arrow in it,
And then I just push on something.
and it says it'll ask you which share all full screen or something like that, and then you click the share button.
Are you seeing that?
No, you have to click the share button.
Where's the share button?
You see the little box came up that says which share the whole screen,
So click on entire screen.
entire screen,
So it
And
highlights
then-
in blue. There you
and
go.
then hit the share button. There you go. All right. Now you got it. There you go.
So this is his memorial.
Wow, only 30? Holy moly.
Look at the size of everyone else's memorial, and that's his right there.
A big one. Wow.
Is he a baller or what?
Yeah.
Look at that. Died in Randolph, Vermont.
Yep. And Colonel Meade. Let's see, what else can I show you? Here's talking about his children that he left. Look at his children's lifespan. They were so short.
Oh, man. Yeah.
13.
Yeah. A lot of death back then, huh?
19.
And,
Well, you know, 18. Let's see. 77. That one when the plague.
Yeah, that would be before.
The plague.
and I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring up this other one. I had it up, but I just blew it. And I let it go, but let's see. Well, anyway, so that was a great find, I thought. And I wish I could go more into that, but yeah, so here's a known signature by him also. So there's no debate.
Right.
Look on that one, it says late Colonel.
Yeah, late.
Huh.
Yeah, somebody
Right
scratched
afterwards,
it.
huh? Yeah.
Isn't that what they call themselves afterwards? You call yourself a
Late would be after he died.
That'd be after he died.
Ah, I see. Interesting.
Yeah, it'd be criminal retired.
After they're done being in the army or the military, they're called retired.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mentioned I'm a total novice when it comes to this stuff, but I can recognize when something's good and old, and so I was thinking about Erik when I saw those, and
why? Because he's getting
it was
old.
exciting.
He's old.
Waiting for the package to get here. It was so nice you had to donate it to the TRR museum.
TRR museum.
But no, it's cool to learn about this stuff, and I'm happy to learn all the other things that you guys are teaching me. So it's not my field of complete interest, but I'm picking up some stuff along the way.
Right. Awesome, Drew. Well, hey, man, I appreciate it. We're going to get wrapped up for the evening. I'm going to go ahead and skip mine this week. I've got another Purple Heart. I'll just show it next week. Not a big deal. But, yeah, I want to thank everybody for stopping in and viewing. Thank you, Erik, for being the guest this week. We look forward to next week. Get you on as a panel member. Make sure you go check out the AlliedMilitariaForum.com, the SourcingForum.com. Go check out all the Facebook groups everybody talks about. Go check out the shows during the week. We got Reseller Wake Up Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You've got, let's see, the Toadcast.
A Toadcast with a topic.
Yeah, Toadcast tomorrow night. You've got Pickers Church Sunday, our show Sunday night. Monday you got Prophet Talk, and then RB3's got his show on Mondays. Green Room on Tuesdays. Meet Greet on Wednesdays, and then, of course, there's probably some other stuff out there I don't know about. But go check them all out. Support all the resellers and collectors out there. If you're interested in getting your collection on the show, just shoot me a message on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Shoot a panel member a message. Just get a hold of one of us, and, hey, I'm more than happy to get you on the show and talk about your collection. So until next week, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you.